Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. Welcome to our show that's for you, those who work so hard for your money. You want your money to start working harder for you right now. You want that freedom and cash flow today, not 30 or 40 years from now, but right now to live that life that you love with those that you love. But guys, it's not just about getting rich, is it? It's about living a rich life, because as you're blessed financially, you can create a greater impact and bless the lives of others. That is the ripple effect you're here to do. That is a ripple effect I'm so proud and so grateful that I'm able to provide through you guys as well. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for binging. And most importantly, thank you for taking action and be willing to change your life. Many of you guys have reached out, and it's funny because some of you are just like, you know what? I've been listening to the show forever. Finally decided just to email and reach out, and voila, the next thing you know, they're working with us, and not only working with us, but they're getting results. I remember we just had our birthday type of message, my birthday, not necessarily the company's birthday. I had my birthday special. We've already had clients from that already start to get some good results, including one client that is almost halfway to his $15,000 a month passive income goal. So I want to definitely give a special shout out to those of you guys that not just were listening. You weren't just the hearer of the word, but you're the doer as well. You're willing to reach out and do something about it. And now your lives are starting to be blessed. That is why we're here. That's why I keep doing this every day, because I want to see your lives change, specifically at least 1,000 of you financially independent by 2030. So thank you so much. As a reminder, again, if you want to see how much passive income you can create, go to our website, moneyripples.com, take the passive income calculator, fill it out, and see just what your results will be. It's pretty impressive to see just what you can create in 12 months. So go do that today.
Chris Miles was able to retire twice by the time he was 39 years old. But he's not content to just enjoy his own financial freedom and peace of mind. Chris wants you to have your own ripple effect so you can live free today. He's not the financial advisor you expected. He's the anti-financial advisor you deserve. He's jumping behind the mic right now, ready to make waves. Here's Chris Miles.
All right, guys. So I want to talk about what's that secret to an extraordinary life. I've been listening to different books lately, like Ed Milet's new book about One More. I've been listening to other things as well, and even just seeing some of my own relationships and friends. And even just recently, I just ran the Chicago Marathon. I'll show some pictures here in a second, but was doing that and just really blown away at what can create a better quality of life. And I know if you're listening to this right now, and if you're listening to podcasts, probably in general, the truth is you probably want something more than the status quo, mediocre, boring life, right? And I'm not saying you don't want to have just a good life, a simple life. I mean, you want something more than what most people get, which is work their job, try to survive, pay their bills, and essentially die. And even if you get some sort of enjoyment later on, you've almost lost that time, that precious time you could have had with your loved ones to be able to have that blessing, to be able to have that time with them, and while they still want to be with you or have the time to be with you. And I don't want to see you guys have that life pass you by. But I know if you're here right now, it's because you don't either. You want something more than that status quo. You want an extraordinary life, not an ordinary life. You want extraordinary. And so that's what I want to talk about today is what is that key? What is that real secret to getting that? And so I've really been pondering on that. And I would say, if I could dumb it down to one thing, it's this. It's discomfort. Discomfort. Not disease, right? Discomfort. Not being comfortable. Now, many of you guys have heard me talk about being a comfortable saver, right? Many people say, oh, I'm a conservative investor. I don't know if I can do these alternative investments. But when I look at you, I say, why are you a gambler? You're gambling in stock markets you have zero control over. You're gambling in places that have already been proven not to work. I've already told you that in my story, I wasn't becoming financially free. My dad, who did everything right, didn't become financially free. None of the financial advisors became financially free, nor any of our clients. And by the way, there's over 100 financial advisors in my office. Not one of them were financially free from the investments, not just the commissions they were earning. So if you look at all that evidence, and not to mention, I even had an episode recently, several episodes talking about the evidence and the numbers, and even about case studies of people that were still worried about running out of money and essentially not being financially free. So after all of that, why would you want to do the status quo? Why would you want to be that comfortable saver? Comfortable because everybody else is doing it, yet we've already proven it's 100% chance of failure. Why would you do that? Well, the reason is probably because it hasn't been uncomfortable enough for you. And especially if you make good money, it's even harder because it's able to be hidden by your income generation while you're in your working years. Yet the question you're going to eventually ask yourself is, how long is these working years going to keep going? How long do I have to keep doing this? Can you be comfortable being uncomfortable is the real question. So many of you guys don't know this, or maybe you do. Some of you have probably heard this if you've been listening long enough. But 20 years ago and about 20 pounds ago, I was one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers. This is not me. This is a much better photo quality than you would have ever found from my stash of pictures. Many of my pictures have ballroom dance teams of people around me, and it's blurry half the time, or it's VHS tapes, which I can guarantee you, I cannot figure out how to get a VHS tape showing up here. Regardless, though, I was one of the nation's top amateur ballroom dancers, especially about the year 2001. Now, up to that point, right? Now, I didn't start out being the greatest ballroom dancer ever. In fact, I couldn't dance at all. I started dancing in the mid 90s in college my freshman year when I was in Idaho. I was starting to learn there. But because it was so much fun, I just kept learning and kept trying to get better and better because it was fun. I enjoyed it. And if you know anything about me, I'm the kind of person that likes to always improve and always progress and make things better. Well, that's kind of what happened with dancing, especially when I find something fun and enjoyable. So I did that. Now I moved to Utah my junior year. So I had 2 full solid years. And then I moved to Utah. And while I'm here, one of my instructors, right? She was watching me dance. She was a Latin dance instructor. Just so you know, although I did really well doing like waltz and quick step, foxtrot, and those kind of things. For me, my love is Latin dancing. Love Latin dancing, love like the cha-cha, paso doble. If you've watched that, it's like the matador and the bull, that kind of deal. Those kind of dances were always my favorite, right? Well, this Latin dance instructor was watching me and she said, Chris, you're a pretty good dancer. You've been working really hard at this. I can tell you know a lot of the steps. You're smart with this, but there's one thing you're doing that's just not right. But if you fix this one thing, you'll go from doing decent at competitions to potentially getting in the finals or even maybe winning a competition. But you got to change this one thing. Guess what that was? I'll tell you a little bit later. I'll tell you at the end of the show. And I'm not just doing that to tease you, but it does actually tie in with this whole subject. But she saw something. She said, there's one thing, if you change it, it'll make the difference. Now, I was expecting maybe it was something like a new step or technique. It really wasn't. And here's a key point. You've heard me say this before. It's not about working harder. And it's not about working smarter. It's about working right. Many people work their tails off working hard, right? We already know that. And people will even try to study up things. I mean, there are plenty of financial advisors studying their craft, thinking that they're smart. Yet the results don't show it. Many of you possibly, it might be you, in fact, right now. You might even be doing real estate investing right now. You might think you're doing great because I have a few $100s a month of cash flow coming from that property. But then if I were to look at your situation and say, you know what, I can see it and you could do better. And that's typically the case. That's very often the case. Very rarely we say, you know what, keep doing what you're doing. You're awesome. Keep it up. You don't need us. I actually said that to somebody just a few months ago. I was like, honestly, you could hire us and we could help improve things a little bit, but you're doing fine on your own. You really don't need us. So if you want to hire us, great. We'd love to work with you, but you're doing amazing for what you're doing. So keep up the good work. That's the thing. We love working with people, whether you're brand new in this or whether you've even done this yourself for a while. It's not new, but you're looking for better opportunities to improve things. That's what we help with. Anyways, let me get back to the point though. Again, living this extraordinary life requires it to be uncomfortable. And she even told me, she's like, Chris, if you do this, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel weird. Okay. You're going to feel like you're doing it wrong, but it's going to be uncomfortable. This same thing also happened to me in my running. It's funny because if some of you have seen pictures of me way back when I started Money Ripples, I was overweight, and maybe whether you knew it or not, I was kind of sick and a little bit unhappy. I was actually about to go through a divorce. I was overweight. I was eating bad foods. And then everything changed, especially after I met my wife, Adise. She introduced me to organic, non-GMO, not eating as many carbs and potatoes and things like that. And so I actually was able to drop over 30 pounds by exercising less. Okay. And on top of that, because I dropped the weight, even though I was still, by the way, before this, I was still working out almost every day. but I was in pain. I was inflamed. My body ached a lot. I was feeling my age, quote unquote, right? Where I was getting in my mid 30s and starting to feel it. Well, after I changed my diet, my nutrition especially, things got better. And then I was able to start running. And then I started competing. I started even running half marathons. And pretty soon I'm like, wait a minute, I could actually win top 3 in my age group. Holy cow. There's even the occasional race, if it's small enough, and if there's not too much competition, I might even win it or get in the top 3 overall. And so I was like, this is cool. So, what ended up happening is I started trying to not just work harder at my running, but I realized I needed to work smarter and most importantly, work right. So what I do, 2021, I started working smarter. 2021, I actually started using this app, Run with Hal. Great app if you're looking for a good running app to even do a 5K race or something like that. Run with Hal is an app I got, and it really helped me out. It kind of got me on a good regimen. And I'm one of those people, I like to gamify things. Like if you give me a regimen and step by step what to do, I'll do it, right? So I did. And in fact, I even overtrained slightly and my times improved. But starting this year, I realized, you know what? I need to do something more. I need to do more than just improve. I want to win. So I made a goal, 2022. I said, I want to run my fastest race. It's a downhill race in California. I want to run it in basically about 2 hours and 45 minutes. Just so you know, the marathon record just barely got on 2 hours, got broken, was considered impossible. Finally got broken recently with the perfect running conditions and pacers and everything, right? That's the fastest runner in the world. I want to run in 2:45, which would put me as some of the fastest people in my age group now being 45 years old. So what I did at the beginning of this year, I hired a coach. I hired a marathon coach. I said, I need some extra help. I need some outside eyes looking in. And that marathon coach got me working and got me doing some pretty cool stuff there. Now, she did something very similar to what my other ballroom dance coach did. She got me to do things that were uncomfortable. She had me training and running and doing things. I remember the biggest week I would ever have with that app that I was mentioning before was I would run 35 miles one week and then 50 miles the next. And those 50-mile weeks, I dreaded, I hated, much like Muhammad Ali hated his training. It's like, oh, I hate the training, but I love winning. I love being the champ, right? Well, that was true for me. I would hate and dread those 50-mile weeks because that means I'd have to run 20 miles or more sometimes, maybe up to 22 miles on a Saturday. Well, getting a new coach, she's very good and teaching mindset as well as body and intuition and things like that. Even trying to tell me to feel my body during races and how to train my body during that on a practice runs. Getting me to do it right, not just have a regiment, not just to have something that I'm doing, but actually do it right. Giving me feedback one-on-one based on my circumstance. So that's what I did. Just this last month, was able to run the Chicago Marathon. First time I did one of the big 6 majors, the world majors, where the best people around the world come to run these races. This could be like Boston Marathon's one of the most popular, oldest ones. You've heard of that probably. There's the New York Marathon. There's Berlin, Tokyo, as well as London. These 6. So I decided to run my very first majors. I qualified for it last year while using the app. This year I said, hey, I ran pretty well, but I want to run this one. Well, based on that qualifying time, the time I had in Big Bear last year when I ran that race, well, they put me in the runner's gate where I'm with runners. They're running between a 3-hour, 5-minute and a 3-hour, 10-minute marathon. Now, understand this is a flat course marathon. I ran one in 2020 in Utah, and I ran about just over 3.5 hours, and it was miserable. Okay. I usually run downhill races. I love them. They're fast. Well, I was going to be running this one. And so when they said 305 to 310, I said, yeah, it's the third fastest corral out of 13 corrals. I was like, ugh, good luck, but sure, I'll go for it. And my goal was only to get in the top 8,000 runners because there's 40,000 runners. If I got the top 8,000, that's top 20% of the world. I'll take it. Well, I ran it. And again, my training, I followed what my coach told me to do, even while I was fueling and everything during the race. What shocked me was that I was faster and stronger than I expected. So I ended up running that race in 3 hours and 7 minutes, right in the middle. I was just hoping to get around 320. I was like, if I can get 320, that's a great pace, solid effort. 307, guys. I ran at a 0.5 minute per mile faster than I expected, which put me just under 2900th place. So I was actually in about the top 7 or 8 percentile of that. Now, I'm not just saying this to brag, although I am very proud of it. But there is a key point here is that I was uncomfortable in that training. I was uncomfortable even with that time. Even I had to mentally talk myself to say, listen, I deserve to be here. Even in that corral with those people at that time, I deserve to be here. And surely enough, Chicago must have known what they're doing when they did their time conversions based on courses. I got right in the middle of exactly the time that they expected me to get in that corral. I thought for sure I get beat by everybody in that corral. And instead, I actually ended up beating them and even some people in the corral ahead of me that had faster times. So I was very happy with that. This kind of gives me the great momentum because now I'm going to be running the race right about now. In fact, while you're watching this, I'm going to be running the next race at Big Bear, hoping for that 2:45. It seemed pretty far-fetched, but now after Chicago, I thought, well, maybe it's possible. And guys, this is key. Because when it comes to your money or any aspect of your life, you want to be more successful. You want to have a more extraordinary experience to create something beyond the status quo. It requires you to get uncomfortable. It requires you to do something that's not convenient. Success is not convenient at all. If you want convenience, go to a convenience store. It'll make you fat, sick, and broke because you'll pay way too much for those products, right? That's really what it is. Convenience stores don't lead to it. It's just like security. You want security? Go to maximum security prison where you'll get best security. You want freedom? You got to get out of prison. It's not convenient. It's not comfortable. It requires personal responsibility. It requires you having to really focus and do what most people will not do. It requires you to take steps and action that people won't do. It'll make you look weird at times. It'll make you seem strange. And people say, why are you doing that? It's worth it if you want something more than what those people have as well. You cannot live the same old life doing the same old things, right? You want something different, you got to do and be and think differently. That is exactly what we're trying to teach you on this show. And I know many other people are out there teaching this kind of stuff. But I want to come back to, if you want a better financial situation, you got to be willing to do things that feel uncomfortable, that don't feel right, that feel different. That is the importance of what you need to do in your own life. So, coming back to my ballroom dance coach, what did she say? She said, Chris, if you just change this one thing, you do this right, you can actually start winning instead of just getting in maybe the semifinals or the quarterfinals of competitions at nationals. So I did that one thing. She says, it's your core, Chris, your center of gravity. It wasn't a step. It wasn't about doing it more or doing things that I've already been doing more. It was something completely different. She's like, the thing is, like your body's kind of out of control, which makes you work harder. It makes you work harder because you're not doing this one thing. If you do this, everything will get tighter, cleaner, crisper, and you'll dance better and the judges will notice. And so I started practicing that and it was uncomfortable because I'm like, this feels weird. She's like, yeah, but look in the mirror. Look what you're doing. Look at from outside perspective. You're like, what I'm seeing, it looks better, doesn't it? Yeah, it does, but it just feels so weird. It's like, keep doing it. Keep practicing it. Practice it, Chris, until it feels natural and comfortable. So I did. Kept practicing, became natural and comfortable. Pretty soon, I just became part of it. And as I did it, she was right. I would spin. I could do like multiple spins. Have you ever seen people like do their spin, 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 spin? I was doing that stuff, able to get through it and bam, hit it. And the next thing you know, I'm starting to get into the finals with the competitions and even winning first, second, third place in those competitions. Even when I went to nationals, won fourth place in one of the dances there. Now, I will say this, I didn't have my normal dance partner, so I could have easily beat my roommate, who was number 3 in the nation. I almost got him. I would have beat him if it weren't for that. But still, like I was able to place because I had to do what was uncomfortable. And it wasn't convenient. It felt like I had to start over again and relearn all over. But as I did it and I did it right, it worked better. In fact, it saved me energy. It saved me more energy, making me more efficient as a dancer, and it looked better. That is same true for you in any aspect of your life, whether it's in your relationships, with your marriage, it's true with your health, it's true with your money, it's true with your spiritual life, it's true with everything. It's not about working harder or smarter, it's about working right. And the best way I've found for me to do that, if I want to start doing something right, is getting that outside perspective, even if it's the things I know what to do, getting that outside perspective to say, hey, have you noticed blank? Do you notice you might be missing blank? You could be doing this. Just like those people, I'm like, hey, you've got a rental property, but do you notice your return on equity is lower? You could actually sell that property, go and buy a bigger property or multiple properties and cash flow double what you're doing right now or triple what you're doing right now and actually get to your goal faster than your current trajectory. Even for those that are already doing those things, sometimes they can just do it better. For those of you that are doing brand new, even better because you're doing something that probably nobody around you or very few people that might be around you know how to do, but it creates better results. Guys, you are in the right place at the right time, and the right opportunity is right now. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to take advantage of that? How are you going to make your life extraordinary? Will your desire be greater than your excuses? Your desire for freedom, your desire for having more time with that family back so that you know you have that life, be able to have that enjoyment, that's worth it. Guys, I've mentioned my dad as my inspiration on this show many times. And just the other night, I was talking to him on the phone, and he was asking me, he's like, well, he just got a Facebook account. He just barely figured out how to use it. And he's like, Chris, I noticed you were staying in front of some tall buildings. I'm like, oh yeah, that was Chicago. What were you doing there? Was that business? No, actually, it was a marathon. And I told him what I did. And then he already knew that with my business. He's like, well, I know some business things going on too, because I don't really tell him about my business that much. I'm like, yeah, things are going amazing. It's going great. Got my YouTube channel, got my podcast. It's been doing awesome. I tell him about how we're growing and the things that we're up to. And he's just like, Chris, congratulations. I'm proud of you. You've done something I never managed to do myself. Here I am. He's alive, but he feels like he's not really living anymore. He's not living the life that he wanted. That's not, again, not to brag about me. I had to make the same choices that you had to make as well. And those choices are a daily, consistent basis that require me, just like you, to get uncomfortable. Those little decisions I made over time, those little things, that's what got me to become where I am now and where I'm going to, because I'm not anywhere close. I don't consider myself an ultimate success. I don't think I'm amazing that way. I'm just a normal, ordinary guy trying to do the predictable, right things that create extraordinary results. That's what I wish for you guys as well. Again, if you have questions, you can always reach out to us through moneyripples.com. There's a way we can serve you and help you. Let us do it. But guys, I want you to live an extraordinary life. That means you cannot live a life of convenience, because success is not through convenience. It's not through comfort. It's not about being a comfortable saver. It's about being someone who's uncomfortable doing the right things. Go and make it a prosperous week. I'll talk to you later.